Welcome to the latest episode of On the Desk of Brian, an easygoing podcast where I explore a mix of my professional and personal interests. In today's episode, I'll be diving into an article that encourages the love of reading, the increasing amount of money spent on pets, increasing productivity with clutter-free laptops, a new name for where the Phoenix Suns play, and much more. Okay, first up on my desk is an article in Education by Christine Banko from the Educator's Room. Christine's article discusses ways that teachers are rebuilding a love of reading post-pandemic. The author notes that there is a shift for teachers in promoting reading that is supported from a study from Gallup's Voice of Gen Z Studies to focus on student engagement, autonomy, and emotional connection. There is also evidence showing that young people are reading less and are getting more of their information from social media sources. Not surprisingly, a lack of interest in reading is showing up in a decline of reading scores nationwide. Fortunately, there are a few strategies offered to remedy these declines. The first is to introduce low-stakes, friendly competitions such as a 1,000,000-page challenge, encouraging students and staff to read a collective 1,000,000 pages. Contests like these encourage not only competition, but also incorporate a community spirit along with visible recognition. In addition, contests like these encourage reading in all classes, rather than just English classes, encouraging more participation with other staff members too. A second suggestion is to encourage more reading to allow students to have more autonomy about the books chosen to read. Students should be encouraged to select books that connect with their lives. However, school or public library librarians should be involved with providing access and guidance to students to select appropriate books. Thirdly, it is important to build a community around reading. Students and their teachers and other staff members should be encouraged to share what they are reading. For example, a school club or a sports team can read together for shared inspiration. I'm interested to hear, are you an avid reader? If not, do you believe you would be had you or your teachers incorporated some of these strategies when you were going through your K-12 education? Please reach out. Feedback at brian8944.com. Next up, in economics, Monday Morning Economist brings us our next article. This one was on my desk and written by Jadrian Wooten. The gist of the article focuses on how many pet owners are now treating their furry friends like little kids, and they're happy to splurge on fancy services, cool accessories, and comfy homes that go way beyond just keeping them fed and watered. Lifestyle and demographic changes have really pushed this trend as the birth rate continues to lower and the number of child-free couples continues to rise. While the article was written in 2021, some of the trends that went much longer than what may have been spending habits born out of the pandemic. For example, the article notes that since 2013, pet spending increased about 50%, while household income in that same period of time increased by about 32%. In 2020, the average amount of money spent on pets annually was about $700. The author also highlighted some things that people can splurge on for their pets, including an orthopedic bed, frozen popsicle treats, doggy antidepressants, a doggy day spa, or even an exclusive private dog park. Next up in sports, starting off in NBA and Suns news, we are still ramping up for the NBA season to start. And I had a bit of Phoenix Suns news that was on my desk. PHX Arena is no more. But that is because the Phoenix Suns, the Phoenix Mercury, and United Wholesale Mortgage entered into a 10-year naming rights partnership for the arena for about $115 million. Of note, Matt Ishbia, owner of the Phoenix Suns, is also the president and CEO of United Wholesale Mortgage. The arena will now be known as Mortgage Matchup Center. Previous names included Footprint Center, Talking Stick Resort Arena, U.S. Airways Center, and America West Arena. As of this recording, we are about a week out from the Phoenix Suns opening game of the 25-26 season. I'm looking forward to it. We got a new coach and a revamped team. They don't have the pressure of being a title contender this year. I think without that pressure, they will play a bit better than they did last year. And if they can recapture that team chemistry they had a few years ago, I think they could be right back into the championship hunt soon enough. Looking now at baseball and D-backs, starting off with an article I found recently from AP News. Ronald Bloom reported that MLB's competition committee approved the use of the automated ball strike system. Essentially, the umpire makes their call, and a team has 2 challenges each game and receives an additional challenge in each extra inning. A play must be challenged within 2 seconds. The only positions that may challenge the ball strike call are the batter, the pitcher, and the catcher. They must do so by tapping the top of their helmet or cap. When a challenge is called, a graphic will display of the pitch in the strike zone, displayed on both the scoreboard as well as on the broadcast feed. Some may argue that this will add a lot of time to the length of games. MLB has done a nice job over the past several years shortening the length of games thanks to the pitch clock. Thankfully, with the automated ball strike system, the league says that there is only an additional 17 seconds added for each challenge posed. When this system was tested at the AAA level, about 50% of the challenges were successful. In other baseball news, as of this recording, we're down to the last 4 teams vying for a world championship. In the National League, it's the Brewers and the Dodgers, while in the American League, it's the Mariners and the Blue Jays. As a D-backs fan, I certainly don't want to see the Dodgers win, but also Arizona traded away some great players earlier this season to the Mariners, Naylor and Suarez. So having cheered on those guys earlier in the season, I wouldn't mind seeing them earn a championship ring. Football Packer news. Coming off their bye week, the Packers got a victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Ironically, in the week prior, the Bengals traded for Joe Flacco in their in-state rivals, the Browns, which allowed the Packers to face the AFC quarterback twice this season. When the Packers faced Flacco earlier this month, they lost a close matchup and followed it up with a tie with the Cowboys. As of this recording, the Packers are 3-1-1 and are scheduled to take on the Arizona Cardinals on the road on October 19th. Moving on over to Arizona State University football news, Paul Prenderville wrote a great article in Talk Sport where he discussed the recent news that on September 19th, 2026, Wembley Stadium in London, England will host college football for the very first time ever. And the 2 teams who will embark on that opportunity will be none other than Arizona State Sun Devils and the Kansas Jayhawks. This will be considered a home game for the Jayhawks, but fans from both teams are projected to make the journey across the pond to cheer on their teams. The Jayhawks are in the middle of renovating their home stadium, and while they are playing in Lawrence this year, they recently played their home games last year at the Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium 2024 and will be implementing the next phase of their renovations in the 2026 season. On the field, the Sun Devils wrapped up a tough loss on the road against the Utah Utes, losing 42-10. They were without their quarterback, Sam Leavitt. Hopefully the Sun Devils will have him back when they return home on October 18th against the undefeated Texas Tech. This episode of From the Desk of Brian is brought to you by absolutely no one. That's right, it's time for another Not a Sponsor. First up, are you trying to get your students reading again after the pandemic? Try the Million Page Challenge. It's the competition where everyone wins because nothing says school spirit like arguing whether a graphic novel counts as 250 pages or 25. And speaking of spirit, maybe you're channeling yours into your furry best friend. According to the Monday Morning Economist, pet owners are spending big. We're talking orthopedic dog beds, doggy antidepressants, and private dog parks. Forget kids. These pups are living better than most college students. And while the dogs are relaxing, the Phoenix Suns are gearing up to play at their newly named arena, the Mortgage Matchup Center. Nothing says slam dunk quite like a 30-year fixed rate. Meanwhile, baseball fans can soon thank robots for calling balls and strikes. Yep, the automated ball strike system is on deck, and apparently it only adds 17 seconds per challenge. So don't worry, your 7th inning stretch is safe. And finally, mark your calendars. In 2026, Arizona State and Kansas are taking college football across the pond to Wembley Stadium, which means, yes, London is about to learn what Sparky the Sun Devil looks like up close. This Not a Sponsor ad has been powered entirely by coffee, curiosity, and questionable time management. Back to the desk. Thank you, ChatGPT, for today's Not a Sponsor segment. Next up, in productivity, I found an article in PC World from Dominic Bailey, who wrote about establishing some habits to keep his laptop clutter-free. The article highlights some tangible ways that people can create habits interacting with digital files that prevent the accumulation of digital clutter, while also making it easier to locate files, be more efficient, and help focus on tasks at hand. Here are some of the tips offered by Dominic. First up, he suggests a use it, lose it rule, meaning that if a file is opened, viewed, or used, it must be moved to a proper folder or deleted. This helps prevent the many files that can accumulate on a user's desktop or downloads folder. Another useful tool is periodically looking at what apps may be set to auto-launch when booting up. Too often, Dominic says that there are too many programs that auto-launch, which can impact productivity by slowing down the operating system. A third useful habit recommended to implement is to ensure that files are named appropriately and rename generic file names to help with searching for information later. There are several more great examples provided, and I recommend checking out the article to get more information. The link is in the show notes. And with our last story of the evening in entertainment. Looking at video game Xbox news, I have a couple articles that are on my desk today about Xbox. Unfortunately, they both concern price increases. One is in hardware, while the other is for software. Looking at the hardware, an article from CNBC and written by Kif Leswing mentioned that U.S. prices of Xbox consoles would increase in price. There would, however, not be price increases in accessories, nor in other nations. Looking at the Xbox Series S, the console previously started at $379, but now starts at $399. The Series X, with the disc drive and without, each went up by $50 to $649 and $599, respectively. Fortunately, with the increased hardware prices, there won't be increased prices on accessories such as controllers and headsets in this round. But unfortunately, within a couple of weeks, Microsoft announced further price changes, this time in its game subscription service, Game Pass. Ahmed Farhath wrote an article for Seeking Alpha where he discussed the changes to the tier offerings and their prices to Xbox Game Pass. With the new changes, there will be 3 rather than 2 tiers. Starting at the bottom, the core tier now becomes essential and costs about $10 per month. Then the next tier is one that is new. It's called Premium. It costs about $15 per month, which is the old price of Ultimate. Then Ultimate has a new price of about $30 per month. Microsoft did add more benefits to the tiers, including PC games now being included within all the tiers and unlimited cloud gaming. Ultimate now also adds some perks only available to Ultimate subscribers, including the Fortnite Crew Bundle, as well as Ubisoft Plus closing games. It also seems that Ultimate is the only tier that receives new games on day 1. Premium tiers will get them, but they are noted as being available within 12 months of launch. Of note, Call of Duty titles are excluded from that benefit for those subscribed on the premium tier. Please check out the article in the show notes for more details about the features in each tier. Okay, so that wraps up another episode of On the Desk of Brian. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. If you want to find me in between episodes, I'm most often found on Mac Voices Live, which records on Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Please visit my website, brian8944.com, so you can keep up with all my ongoing and upcoming projects. You can also contact me there with any feedback you may have. So until next time, so long for now.